So I'd like to talk about extract and inline, but I'm actually focusing on the inline refactoring. Here we've got some fancy code. There is an array of numbers and we double each of those numbers and then return them. If I want to carry out the extract refactoring, I might want to replace this assignment here with something more meaningful. So I can ask it to extract a function for me and call it calculate the numbers. Let's imagine there's something funky going on that generates those numbers. I don't know how to make that the default. And I've extracted a function from this. To inline that function, I do the reverse. But not easily. I do the reverse. Yeah. So the IDE can take that function and pop it back into place there. I don't have to inline functions. I can inline variables. Numbers isn't really adding anything for me here, so I can refactor that. And actually, we could look at that now and say, do you know what? Doubling the numbers, it's obvious that that's what's happening, and we can inline the function entirely. That's an example of extracting and inlining as a refactoring. Why was I thinking about it? Well, because I'm clicking on the wrong file. Because here's a page object model, and we were using the inline refactoring to improve this page object model. When we start it as a page object model is when you're doing browser-based testing, UI testing, you can have model code which represents the UI. So elsewhere in our tests, we don't have to know, here this is Cypress looking something up. We don't have to know that Cypress exists. So in the code that calls this, we say, well, if you select Mrs. as the title on the billing details page and then submit the billing details page, the title should be invalid. So we're testing here that the form validation works as we expect. When we came to this code, it was a big lump. Everything was just in export default. There was no structure. It was flat. So we pulled out manual address. We pulled out address lookup to give ourselves a way of referring to them. So our test code started to get a bit more expressive. We could say, in the manual address line 1 should be invalid in this circumstance here. And we use the inline refactoring to make that possible. So if we look at usages of these title and full name, if the IDE stops fighting me, you see here title is used in 3 places. Once where we assert that it's invalid, once where we select Mrs., and then again where we assert that it's invalid. Now that's 3 usages in one file, isn't a big deal if you were typing them manually, but if this was hundreds of usages across multiple files, manually replacing all the usages of title would be dull. It would be dull to do that, but also it would be error prone. We might decide that title and full name should have a more meaningful name within the application to make the future reader understand what's going on, help the future reader. I can't think of a good name for that now. We'll call it name. And what we do is we copy title and full name into name. So I've added some duplication. We then replace the original place in the code. We say, okay, name and title and name dot full name. So now title and full name are what are being used elsewhere in the application. Nowhere else in the application is using our new name, but it is exported, so it can be discovered. And title now just proxies through to name.title. You could remove these braces, you could just have the function reference, but we're not trying to make, this is an interim step, so I'm not trying to make this look nice. This is just to get everything set up. Because the external world uses title, because title just points straight through to name.title, all it does is point straight through to name.title, the IDE can now figure out what to do. We can say inline all references to the exported title in billing details and remove it. Once you've inlined all the references, remove it. So the IDE knows now to take name.title everywhere that title is called to replace it with name.title. We can ask it to carry out that refactoring, and when we go back into our spec file, if we look for title in this file, now instead of billing details.title, it's name.title. We can shift back here. We can do the same thing with full name. And here you can see now lookup name.fullname, not billing details.fullname. So whether replacing billing details the name with name the name improves the readability, it isn't the point here. This is an example of how you can use the inline refactoring and how you reorganize your code in order to be able to use the inline refactoring as you discover structure without having to wander around your application typing all the time.